What's up, guys? This is Boondocks, and right now I'm going to be showing off one of my Gaige builds. This one's actually at the request of someone on my channel who asked me to upload a few more builds for the Mechromancer. So this one I'm actually using the little Big Trouble tree, which most people actually consider to be her weaker tree. And in some respects that's true, because you don't get the crazy power of the Anarchy tree or the blatant survivability of Best Friends Forever. But since it's level 72, even in Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, you have access to so many different abilities, you can spread them out throughout the tree. So, starting off in a little Big Trouble, I'm going to put 1 point in a more pep. The reason I only do 1 point, because the way that the increased chance of applying your elemental effects works, say a gun has 10% chance. Well, just because it says it has an additional 24% chance of electrocute, doesn't mean that now it's at 34%. It's actually only 12.4. Because it increases the chance by 24%, if that makes sense. So you're only increasing the 10% chance by 24%. So you get 2.4 or more. So instead, I put all my points in the first area into Myelin. This is so that way you get an increased shield capacity. The damage resistance from shock isn't as important due to the shield I'm going to be using. Now, I always do put 1 point in more pep just because of the class mod, and every little bit counts, I guess. So Strength of 5 Grills is next, because it's better than these two. I mean, getting crits is hard enough, let alone once you start getting Anarchy, and then this only goes off if you get a kill. The Stare is only good if you're trying to keep your death trap at a long range, but I want him in melee, tanking as much as possible, so I skipped that and just put 4 points into Strength of 5 Grills to move on. Evil Enchantress is actually really nice, though, because it can boost the damage of each tick of Elemental by quite a lot once you start combining it with the Catalyst, Legendary Catalyst class mod. I often see burn effects proccing around like 300k, and electrical effects proccing anywhere between 600 to 800k. So this is definitely a good mod, or a good skill to have thanks to the class mod. And then put 4 points in electric burn. This is just so that way whenever you do electrocute an enemy, it has a chance of putting a burn effect on them too. So now, when you combine those two, you're looking at about 1,000,000 per tick, which is pretty devastating in its own right. Then you want to max out your Wires Don't Talk. This increases not only your electric damage, the slow ticking electrocution on them, but it also increases the shock damage of your bullets, assuming you use shotguns, which is what this whole build's about. Just put 1 point in Interspersed Outburst, mostly just to not waste the point, and it does help slag on the first hit, but in order to get the max stacks on Interspersed Outburst, you have to not be shooting enemies. And in order for that to happen, you have to stop dealing damage. So it's not really worth maxing this just for a higher slag chance. I do put 1 point in Make It Sparkle, because when you shoot your death trap with an electric weapon, it'll charge him to do even more electric damage, therefore boosting everything else. Also, if you slag your death trap, then next thing you know, you'll be doing slag damage to all enemies near him, and that makes them easier to kill. My Best Friends Forever tree, I put 5 points in a Close Enough. That gives me the increased chance of Ricochet, which isn't as necessary since we're not going to be building up a massive amount of Anarchy stacks, but it will help you ensure that you're electrocuting enemies, because you will miss. Even if you're not as bad as I am, then who knows? Chances are you're not going to miss, though, hopefully. It's still better than Cooking Up Trouble. This is only a good build or ability when you're running from one area to the other in between fighting groups of enemies, because most of the time you're going to be spamming all your weapons and your magazine's not going to be full. I put all 5 points in Fancy Mathematics just to help my shield recharge whenever I'm not getting kills, because you're not going to get as many burst kills as you would using the beat techniques or max Anarchy stacks. Potent as a Pony is always nice, just because of the increase in health for both you and Death Trap. letting your death trap stay out a little bit longer before he gets killed, and preventing you from getting killed. Upshot Robot's nice as well, because one, your death trap is going to be in melee range, so it increases his melee damage a good amount, as well as letting him stay alive, or stay out longer. He's actually the main point of this build, is being able to use him as a tank if you're in solo. When you're in groups, you can still do just as much damage as long as someone else is taking the hits for you. Meta Sterner stuff just help with the damage reduction, and again, increase your melee damage for your death trap. 20% cooler, as I've said many times already, you want your death trap out. So this will help get him back out once he goes down. Sharing is caring. I used a black hole shield, and I'll get into that when I talk about the equipment, but this also applies all the effects of black hole on your death trap. In the Anarchy tree, Ordered Chaos, you have to take Smaller, Lighter, Faster, and Anarchy, obviously, in order to move down to the next tier. Smaller, Lighter, Faster doesn't really matter all that much. The reload speed is nice, but the magazine size decrease isn't that apparent overall, so it's not that big a deal. And any Anarchy will increase your damage, which is beneficial. So while this isn't all about building maximum stacks of Anarchy like other builds, it is helpful to have some. Because I'm not trying to go for max stacks, I only put 2 points in a pre-shrunk Cyberpunk, giving me a maximum of 150 stacks. Robot Rampage is nice because it's a AoE melee ability that does bonus damage and will apply the shock and or slag, whatever you have on Death Trap at the time. Bloodsoaked Shields synergizes really well with Black Hole. The way Black Hole works, whenever it goes to 0, it causes a singularity effect, sucking in all enemies around you. It then explodes in a big nova. It's actually the strongest nova in the game. So then if you can get a kill off of that, your shield will recharge. Next time it drops, it does the same thing. So you can actually get a cool little chain reaction going against smaller enemies, and it'll help bring in enemies for your second wins, if need be. And then finish up by putting 1 point in Discord. That way you don't lose all your Anarchy stacks, and you can use it for extra healing if need be. As far as equipment goes, I don't want to have that out. I typically run with the Florentine. The reason I do that is because with the Florentine out, you can slag your enemies and apply shock damage. I also don't want the Flying Sandhawk. Sorry about that. What I want over here is actually the Twister. The Twister is great at close range. It shoots out 19 bullets that spiral around. This is good for bursting down enemies that get in too close to you, killing big enemies that have a lot of health, and especially the shielded guys, like the shield-carrying nomads, the ones with the midgets tied on the front. This will actually, the bullets will hook around and hit them in the back. So it's pretty nice. The slow hand is used for killing mostly the big psychos and everything. The ones that try to charge at you, you can fire this at them while falling back to try to keep yourself healed up and still do some damage to them. And of course, Norfleet for second wins. The issue with Norfleet, though, is because it's smaller, lighter, faster, you're only going to be able to fire off one shot before reloading, so you got to try to make it count. As I've already said, I'm going to be using a Black Hole, a grounded one, just to have some immunity to electrocution, but it's really not all that important, that part of it. But the Black Hole is what makes this build fun, though not as necessary. I used a homing Slago negative just to slag extra enemies, as well as give myself some healing long range. Sorry about that. You can swap it out for something like Chain Lightning or Firestorm, Homing Pandemic, or Homing Stormfront. Homing Stormfront will actually increase your overall damage quite considerably, but I like the extra healing. As far as class mods go, if you're going to go this route, there's only one that you can really choose, and that's the Legendary Catalyst class mod. It increases your elemental proc damage and gives you all those benefits that I showed you already in the skill tree. There's also only one major relic to use, the Shocking Bone of the Ancients. Increase your shock damage and your cooldown rate on Death Trap. So, That's my build of my gear. Let's go give this girl a try. Of course, I'm using all OP8 gear, and I'm going up against OP8 enemies. So I usually like to throw out my slide grenade and then summon my death trap. And I typically start off with Florentine. As you might notice, this isn't nearly as powerful as, say, an Anarchy build, but it still does a lot of damage, especially when Death Trap first gets into the fray. Because when he shield drops, he's going to do that massive Nova damage. There, I accidentally used up all my Anarchy from reloading too soon. You don't build Anarchy stacks fast at all when running this build. The one issue I have with Death Trap, similar to what I have with the Siren's phase lock, when you have it try to chain from one enemy to the other, the AI on it seems a little bit dumb, and because of that, you'll get stuck on walls and all that bullcrap, and not get to the enemies that you're actually trying to kill. So sometimes you'll wind up getting hit well before Death Trap's in the area. Right there, I missed horribly. Mostly because I'm a dipper, so I had to spit real quick. Sorry about that. Also, Death Trap's not smart enough to fall back when the shield's almost down, so you won't be able to charge it up all the way in order to get another Nova. Alright, now that it's down, I'm going to count on his... Okay, I don't want this guy getting close, so I'm going to try to use my Twister on him to keep him away. Who the hell keeps lobbing grenades in here? Do you guys see that shit? Oh crap. Heal up just a little bit. Again, this build is really focused around having Death Trap. And then getting Death Trap charged up with your lightning, and then he'll pump out a shit ton of damage. I'm actually a little bit afraid with how long Death Trap's been out right now, because once that wall goes down on the other side, then I'm going to have to deal with some bigger guys, and if Death Trap is time's almost up, or if he dies, because he's pretty weak already, then there's a chance I'm going to have to deal with him myself, and that's where it gets a little bit trickier. The Twister works really well in conjunction with Death Trap, because you'll guarantee hitting him. Yeah, here we go. And here comes the Psycho. It's gonna be bad. So I'm gonna try to send out some splash damage against him. Yeah, here he comes. Uh-oh. This is bad. This is bad. Run, run, run. Kiss my ass, fucker. I want to keep hitting him though, so that way he doesn't heal up. Oh. And Death Trap's back. Awesome. Oh, get on Death Trap. Ignore me. Wow, he just wants my friggin' blood. The slow hand actually works pretty well with Death Trap as well, because it does splash damage. So any enemies that I hit I'll get a double effect off of it, assuming Death Trap's nearby. Wow, this is taking a long time. The Twister, like I said, much better at killing bigger enemies. It's probably what I should have been using before. I just wanted to use my slow hand to make sure that I kept my health up.
Start the anarchy.
That's the real reason having stacks of Anarchy is nice. It's more for the healing than the damage it does. Because this build actually relies more on, like I said, Death Trap and just keeping those procs going. Let's see if I can't show some of, try to get someone electrocuted here. Good. Right there, without the kill skill, they're taking about 30,000 points of damage at any given time. Yeah, you shouldn't die, dumbass.
Discord? Not yet. Not a bad start.
Boom. See, the extra Nova damage from having out my black hole, that's what really did the damage there. If you look, it deals 5.6, give or take a little bit, 5.6 million damage. So, that's why it's really nice. I think this build's pretty fun. I prefer the Anarchy build a little bit. The difference is, this one you can actually just jump into at any time, whereas the Anarchy build, you kind of need to build it up a little bit. I'm trying to get the kill skill off, so that way I can show how much burn damage it does. Because you need that kill skill in order to increase your overall. Okay, if you look, see those procking? How big the procs are? That's thanks to Evil Enchantress. Of course, it's not going to be enough to kill a big target, but it helps burn them down, and that's the important part. Okay. Right there at the start of the fight, Death Trap's Nova Shield went off, and that's where the big damage came from. Nice thing too about having electric damage as your primary source is it can actually tear up the armored characters just as well, because it's considered a neutral source of damage. Neutral source means where corrosive isn't nearly as good against fleshy targets and fire's nowhere near as good against armor targets. Electrical damage is stronger against shields, obviously, but then anything beyond that is just icing on the cake. So it's just bonus damage without any resistance, really.
Alright, let's keep this going.
Keep reloading too soon, but again, you don't really rely on your Anarchy stacks nearly as much in this, so it's not a big deal. He's about to die. Oh. And so is the enemy. Right like that.
How many stacks I can get?
Okay, so that was my electric build. I think I might just call her the Evil Enchantress build. But, you know, I enjoy it. It's good against all targets, but nowhere near as strong as some of the other builds. So, it's your call. It's fun to play, though. And that's the important part. So, good luck, have fun, and peace.